All right, Julie, let's call the meeting to order, please. Can you do the roll call, please?
Kara Caston. Here. Ken Dawson.
Here.
Chris Espinoza.
Here.
Sherelle Fuller. Here. Jenny Hagstrom.
Here.
Terry Pavicic.
Here.
Don Renner.
Here.
Rayhan Hashim.
Here.
And Jason Trejo.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Having a quorum, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
You guys came in.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first order of business is approval of minutes. Can I get a motion from the Board of Education to approve the minutes of the August 19th, 2024 business meeting, the August 19th, 2024 closed meeting, the September 9th, 2024 workshop meeting, and the September 9th, 2024 closed meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Terry moves, Chris seconds.
Thank you. Terry Pavicic.
Aye.
Chris Espinoza.
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Kara Caston.
Aye.
Ken Dawson.
Aye.
And Don Renner.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 4, reception of visitors. Julie, do we have any slips? Thank you. Turn it over to you, Hank, for item number 5.
Getting there. Good evening, everyone. The first one, board members will remember this from year to year. There is an administrative teacher and salary benefit report that must be posted on the website every year by a certain date, and then we must inform the board that we've done so. We have done so. All right, the next one, we have our 2 associate principals for athletics here this evening. We're joined by Dave Rose, who's new to the district, and Brandon Murphy, who's been with us for the last year. And they're going to walk us through 2 topics this evening. The first one is a discussion of co-oping boys gymnastics. I'll turn it over to these gentlemen here.
To kind of go farther than just the information that's in your packet as well. But this conversation, as we looked in some history, as you mentioned, Dave is in year 1, and I'm in year 2 now within the district. We looked back at some of the board notes, and we saw that this came to the board actually in 2019 as a discussion item. And since then, though, there's been a lot of change throughout the state of Illinois with boys gymnastics. So if you can see in bullet there, 1, IHSA, which is the governing body for all sports in Illinois for high school, no longer sponsors boys gymnastics as an official IHSA sport. It's currently classified as an emerging sport. It's listed that with a lot of sports that are actually growing, but this is the first one that we've seen actually go that direction, the opposite direction. But it is currently classified as that, and just in case it ever continues to grow back to the classification. 4 classifications to go to that. They're looking for about 10% of the student school body in the Illinois participation to reach that threshold to become an official sport. Last year, though, was the first year that the IHSA did not recognize a state-sponsored in boys gymnastics to have a state series. The IHSGCA, which is the State Coaches Association, did. And we have members of our district, our student body, that did participate in the state tournament last year. And we're recognized for that. It is also, we are members of the West Suburban Conference, and this boys gymnastics is still a sponsored sport within the within the West Suburban Conference. To do that, you have to have over half the schools in our conference that still have that sport. So if you have over half the schools that represent that sport, then it's considered a conference sport. Last year, you can see in the post here, 23-24 numbers at DGS and DGN. We see those numbers as a spot that we still have a participation level that could, with a co-op, could grow to even more. And with our staff, we could do this in a safe manner and also be able to participate at multiple levels of where our current athletes' skill level is at. We're bringing this also, Dave and I, with conjunction of already talking and working with our head coaches from both schools. So they're in favor of this as well, this proposal. We believe this would continue to provide opportunities to meet the threshold of a co-op. It has to continue to provide opportunities. It cannot take an opportunity away from anybody. We believe this could have possibly long-term cost savings just for a few things, as in maintenance, things like that, equipment costs over time, because you'd be facilitating 1 school instead of 2 schools for supplying those. And then really it's the appropriate level, though, of skills And we have a wide range. You'd be able to take our coaching staff and be able to put athletes in the proper skill set they're in within that level. Right now, we have some in certain levels, but not enough to maybe go to that level, so we wouldn't go to that competition, which means they just don't go. So that by having a co-op, we'd be able to offer an opportunity to more students at a better level for them safely. IHSA co-op, so what we're going through at this process, any co-op that is offered through the IHSA, which our district already offers multiple co-ops between the two schools in conjunction, is always valid for a 2-year window. So if we approve a co-op, it would be good, it would go to the IHSA for a final approval, even with it being an emerging sport, and that would become granted for 2 years. So, any questions on, I guess, boys gymnastics co-op?
Would this have any impact on the number of kids who can participate in the sport? Would it become a cut sport, or would all kids who come and try out find a placement on the team?
Yeah, boys gymnastics has not traditionally been a cut sport, and we don't believe this would ever get to that level.
Okay.
If we got to that level, we would probably be recommending to go back to individual school body at that time.
Okay.
I would say boys gymnastics is a fantastic sport, and discipline that it teaches, perseverance. I mean, it's just a fantastic sport. Unfortunately, it's being downsized and eliminated from a lot of the universities as well. So anything we can do to continue our program, I think, is fantastic.
I agree.
We were here a few years ago having the same discussion about girls' gymnastics. There were a lot of concerns about, would this lead to the demise of girls' gymnastics? Would this destroy the program in the district? And I think the evidence is to the contrary,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
It's really grown.
you know, I think that we've already seen the potential and the opportunities that come with gymnastics being co-opted in this way. And, you know, if it turns around, it goes the other way and starts growing to the point where, you know, it builds back up again and the numbers are pointing to needing different programs, we just come back to the board and talk about a program at each side of town. But so far, it has worked over in girls' gymnastics. I have no reason to believe that we wouldn't be on the same trajectory here with boys.
So since we had it before, do we have all the equipment already? And do the coaches of the girls, so we have coaching, I saw on your thing, girls coaches coach the boys, or who coaches?
They have different staffs. We
Different
do have
staff.
members that
They're in
represent
place.
both, but they're different seasons, and they are fully staffed at this point. yeah.
Okay.
And the equipment is there. It's really the long term if there was repair needed for those things. But we would be able to combine those and combine if there was that.
And we do have graduates from Downers Grove South. I know over the past, 4 or 6 years that have competed at Division I level. So there have been talented gymnasts that have come out of our schools.
Yes, for sure.
All right, so any concerns? It's not an action item, but it would just be good for Brandon and Dave to know if there was any reservations on the board's part of them moving forward with this process, so that if eventually we have a step that ends up back in front of the board, you know, we knew to look into that or to address that concern as we go through this process.
Yeah. I'm fine.
I don't think so.
All right, hearing none.
Fantastic.
Go for it.
All right, keep moving forward, gentlemen. All right, since they were going to be here to talk about this, and there's been a few board members that wanted just some updates on how our athletic programs are going across the district, I figured we'd monopolize their time this evening and have them give an update on athletic programs across the district. So that's the next topic, and I will click when you guys tell me to.
All right, yeah, this first slide here is just kind of a very general overview of the athletic programs at both high schools. A lot of you probably already know some of this information, but just kind of for the sake of kind of getting everyone on the same page, it's just kind of the broad strokes of athletics in D99. We're both members of the West Suburban Conference. The West Suburban Conference is broken up into two kind of sub-conferences. North is part of the silver, and South is part of the gold. Both schools historically have been very competitive, had a lot of success in their respective parts of the conference, and it's arguably one of the most storied conferences in the state of Illinois. So it's a great conference to be a part of, and also kind of leaning into that gymnastics. It's one of the only conferences that still recognizes it. So it's a great opportunity for our kids in this area. So we have 58 total sports that are offered between the two high schools with about 180 teams, which that includes all the lower levels as well. And those are broken down into, depending on what sport it is, you could have a JV level or a sophomore level, and then your freshman and freshman A and freshman B levels. So we are supporting quite a few programs and giving students a lot of opportunities and a lot of choices in their athletics. Number of coaches, we have about 230 coaches that are paid or stipend between the two schools. That does not include volunteers, doesn't include game workers, things like that. Just goes to show just the sheer number of individuals that are involved in supporting these programs, whether it is directly coaching or helping us manage events and things like that. Facility management is just listed in there. Obviously, we've done a great deal of work the last year or so in updating the facilities, and it's a great emphasis for our coaches, our athletes. We've gotten a lot of feedback from parents and all stakeholders that have seen those boards, the fields, and all that. So it's a big emphasis for us and a point of pride for both programs. Emerging sports, we just mentioned kind of gymnastics there as listed as an emerging sport. Some other sports that are heading in the opposite direction as far as increasing numbers and increasing popularity in the conference is boys bowling. So we just kind of mentioned it there just to kind of get it on your radar that boys bowling is growing in specifically the West Suburban Conference as well as girls flag football. This one was just approved last year, and it is skyrocketing in popularity. Typically, when a sport kind of breaks through that emerging sport into an approved sport, it typically takes a couple years for a lot of schools to kind of adopt it. I think the best example would be lacrosse within recent memory, where you had a handful of schools that adopted it, and then throughout the course of several years, it's consistently grown. Girls flag football it's exceeding that in initial popularity. So that is an emerging sport in Illinois as well as the West Suburban Conference, and we've obviously gotten some questions and some interest within D99 too. So just wanted to highlight that. We do plan on sending out a D99 student interest survey. It's something that's been done in the past just to kind of gauge, what our students are thinking about. We anticipate that in that survey that flag football is going to be highlighted on there. So we'll be sending that out probably in October and get those numbers and kind of go from there.
So when we look at the emerging sports, one thing that the board needs to be aware of is there's been quite a number of emerging sports for women that have shown up in the last few years, and girls flag football is another component in there, where you see boys gymnastics dropping off. We're going to need some male sports to fill in to keep that equality across the two genders in the number of offerings that we have. So just something that we'll be keeping a close eye on in the coming years.
Does it need to be offerings, or does it need to be number of participants?
No, it's opportunities that we
Okay.
have.
Well, if you go with girls flag football, would boys bowling be the emerging thing that you could balance it with?
It could be, although at the same time we have boys gymnastics, although we maintain it as a sport falling out of IHSA, so maintaining that helps us keep an equal number of opportunities, but it's something to keep a close eye on as we look at emerging sports. And well, for the first time, it's an emerging sport, but it's a change in status for boys gymnastics.
Yeah.
I just say list right now about a dozen emerging sports, and some are close to becoming an actual sport, and some have been on the list for decades and haven't really taken off.
Yeah.
That's kind of where Dave was alluding to, how flag has rapidly grown within a 2-3 year window, unprecedented that we haven't seen in other sports in the past.
Where
lot of that
do
is some-
sports emerge from? Do they emerge from other high schools in the country, or the college level down, or is it all over the
It's a
place?
combination. A lot of times it is top down, where you'll see it at the collegiate level, and then sometimes it's opposite. Sometimes it's youth up. So you see it on both ends in different ways. Girls flag is now a collegiate level sport too, and they kind of did this in hand, and in a lot of conjunction with the NFL. So you saw a lot of support from the Chicago Bears in Illinois, as in other professional teams in other states as well, and they really helped get the sport off the ground.
Cool.
So I get the privilege to talk about our coaches and some of the expectations we have for our coaches. We see athletics not as really an extracurricular, but really a co-curricular, as strictly an extension of that classroom. Coaches that coach at a high school level have to follow a lot of guidelines and follow a lot of policies, and starting with our own. So you'll see we have a coach's handbook that is also in like our employee handbook, but then our coaches have a specific one too. And a lot of those mirror a lot of the things that are listed in our core values itself, such as effective communication. What does a student relationship look like as a secure relationship? We want every one of our coaches to work with our athletes so the athletes feel like they're seen, safe, secure, supported. These are the things that we talk to them about as well, and that they're using the proper channels to communicate not only with their athletes, but also with their families, community members, things of that nature. Besides our own local handbooks that we work with, and this was a great year. It was the first time that I think maybe in our district, definitely recently, a big part was that Dave and I are both within the first 2 years. But this year, we had to kick off the school year with an all District 99 coaches meeting. Usually we have our own individual one, but we put all coaches for North and South in the same room and went through a very clear message from a district level, kind of going through those district level policies, not maybe building specific, but things that we would like to make sure we're adhered to from that district lens as well. So that was a great kickoff and a great way to kind of start the school year and go. And some of those are just a lot of them are reminders and review some things. Besides our own policies, every coach has to go through the IHSA guidelines. They have to go through testing each year, as well as meet the standard to what a high school coach can be. So they either have to have a coach's license or be a certified teacher. And then each year have to re-up some protocols. They all have concussion testing, performance enhancing drugs, hate speech. These are all just some of the parameters that coaches go through as well. And then we have our own conference. We mentioned before the West Suburban Conference. Just last year was in its 100th year of being a conference, so it's one of the most established conferences in Illinois, and one of the longest standing with the amount of the schools that had not left the conference and stayed stable. Those conferences in each sport, we have our own guidelines. So if you're whatever coach you are for that sport, besides the coaching guidelines, you have to be able to understand your own specific sports guidelines as well and adhere to those as well. Prior to all that, but besides just our conference, our state, our handbook, we have obviously regular preseason meetings as all coaches meet with their counterparts within the conference and go through and have a preseason and a postseason meeting in case they want any changes within the sport, within the conference as well. So they advocate for our school, represent our school in the conference meetings, in those pre and postseason meetings, in conjunction with Dave and I as we go to our monthly meetings and speak on the behalf of the conference from our district as well. And then we asked every coach to also have a preseason parent meeting or guardian meeting, and we're always, a lot of times we're a major part of that as well. So that's a lot with our coaches. Big part of though is that this is that extension from the classroom.
Next portion here is obviously the most important part, the athletes. So with the athletes, and we stole this kind of subtitle here from South, Building on Tradition and Forging the Future, which again kind of highlights that athletics are, again, an extension of the classroom. It's everything that we value education-wise in D99, and how can athletics go and be an extension of that and improve those skills and reteach those skills and all that. So the students, much like the coaches, have a lot of rules and regulations that they are expected to follow. The biggest one is the D99 Student Code of Conduct. Every athlete, 24/7, 365, needs to abide by those rules and those regulations. If they do violate the code of conduct, there are consequences. It is a pretty lengthy process. It involves obviously counselors, teachers. It involves us in just kind of making sure that if there is a slip up, that we address that they learn from it, and that they can take the appropriate steps with support from everyone involved to improve. They also need to meet IHSA eligibility requirements. That is primarily academic requirements. They're required to pass 25 credits during the course of a semester, and they have to have 25 credits at the end of each semester. If they don't meet that requirement, then they are ineligible. So there's 29 different sports that our athletes, again, can choose from. We feel that we do a great job of providing those opportunities for our students, and we're continuing to look for those opportunities, which is, again, highlighted by the fact that, we're looking into these emerging sports and seeing if there are other opportunities for them, and then taking a look at these surveys and things like that to see if there's something that we're missing that the students would be interested in getting involved in. And then community outreach there. So as far as fundraising with our individual programs, there is a portion that's tagged on to that. If they are going to be reaching out to community members and doing some fundraising of their own, there is a kind of a philanthropy aspect to that as well. So it's a way for our athletes to kind of give back to the community. And that's, I've seen that take, in my short time, it's taken several different shapes. I mean, they've done stuff around the school. I know some do stuff around the community. It's just, again, a way to say thank you and give back and really get involved with the community. And then, of course, the benefits of being an athlete, and I think this is universal regardless of what school you're at. It provides leadership opportunities. It leads to success in the classroom. You obviously have additional eyes on you. It's the coach, the athletic director. It's the IHSA requiring that you meet the grade requirements. So there's just an additional level of support for our student athletes. Provides post-grad opportunities, and then again connecting to the school and the community in ways that you might not otherwise be able to without athletics.
Any questions for Dave or Brandon? Thank you both for being here this evening. Hopefully this provides an overview of our programming. Questions that you have for them?
Have you seen just in sports, like, do you look at trending kind of year to year and see, like, if a sport is really growing dramatically over the course of a couple of years or declining? And do you, like, any examples of that? Like, what are some of the sports that might be growing most at each of the schools or declining? And
Yeah, we see this at a kind of statewide level. Most of the sports that are offered, the 29 sports that are offered here, we fill almost every single level that's a conference level at both schools. So our numbers have been very stable within the district. But there are some sports that we've trended with our opponents within the conference or within other schools that we compete with that may not have all the lower levels. So if we're competing at 4 levels, they might be only competing at 2 or 3, and then we need to go find another opponent that week when we're playing them for that other 3rd or 4th level. And that happens, and sometimes that's a little tricky every once in a while to go find just one level out of one other team. But so it is a few sports over time that have done that, but the trending is kind of in that emerging level. Boys gymnastics was in that difficult spot, and that's kind of where we're at with them right now. But I think overall, between the two schools that I've seen so far in the competitions, we're pretty stable with our numbers.
Yeah. And we do get registration numbers at the end of every season, and then we can look at those at the end of every year too, just to kind of see year in and year out what sports maybe dropped a couple athletes, what are gaining a couple athletes, and then sometimes it's just any given class of students maybe just dropped a little bit in interest, and then in another 2 years you'll see it go up again. But then sometimes you do see a trend where 10 years ago maybe you had 100 kids, and then all of a sudden now you're down to 20, and those registration numbers kind of give us an idea of.
Just like to speak specifically, I know in this district, I know a lot of growth has been in volleyball. So girls volleyball is growing greatly in the last decade, all over the place, but we've seen it here as well. So we've added a coaching member, we've added staff, we fill every level. So these are things that I think we've seen. Girls volleyball has taken a big increase.
I'd like to say, I think D99 athletics is something that we all should be very proud of in our community. We definitely have one of the elite programs in the state of Illinois. The positive impact athletics has on our students is immeasurable. Both success in the classroom, leadership, teamwork. It breaks down a lot of the barriers that society puts on each other, and the athletes are like brothers and sisters, and it's really a very special thing. In addition to that, I'd like to highlight we have two Downers Grove South alumni, one who competed in the Summer Olympics in track and field, and another who is currently a member of the Chicago Bears. Not to mention, we have numerous athletes who have earned Division I scholarships every year. So it's something that we really should take pride in, and I thank you guys and all the coaches for everything you do.
You left out the Downers Grove North alumni, who is a member of the Buffalo Bills.
There we go. It's endless. And
So-
North High Paralympian, right?
Yes, yes,
There's
so,
one with the White Sox, and there's another South with the Yankees too, so it's very impressive.
And currently in track and field and cross country, we have athletes, both men and women, which are top in the country, which is amazing.
Yes. Appreciate that.
I think, too, you know, one of the benefits of having you here is to maybe let you tell us about some things that might be some pain points or things that maybe that you struggle with. We've been discussing facility rentals a little bit. You might have some comments on, you know, things like that, or when, you know, how you feel about.
I'm too new to complain.
I'll just say, I am a swimming advocate, and I know that there's a lot of, sometimes some pain points around both pools. So, you know, there's a lot that's been put into our facilities, but there's probably things that you might need too, and this would be the time to say it.
I appreciate that offer, and I'll take you up on it if I get to that point. I came from a previous employment that we had a swim team without a pool, so I'm very grateful for all the things we have in this district and all the things that were just provided in the last cycle and that are continuing to be developed. So I know there's discussions that are going to continue, but we're lucky to be a part of those, so we'll continue to be a part of those. Appreciate it.
And the rental aspect, the direction that we're going with rentals and growing those, I think it's great as far as a community outreach aspect and giving our kids access to our facilities before they're even at the high school level. But obviously there's growing pains with that, and it's additional stressors on the facilities, but I think the benefits of that outweigh some of those costs. And pools, it's a great opportunity for kids. There's always, regardless of what school you're at, the pools are, there's hidden costs to maintain.
Oh, they're not so hidden, I don't think.
yeah.
How are both the coaches and the athletes enjoying the new digital scoreboards, the new AstroTurf fields, the new tracks?
I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from all those members, right? All those stakeholders, from community members that come up and discuss those, and then we're getting ready to have homecoming this weekend, so we're real excited about to showcase that off. This is only our second home event, so we're outside. Inside, we got one right now. So a lot of our teams have made highlight kind of hype videos to really showcase off those boards and really make themselves visual, and it's real exciting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
When my daughter started high school, she immediately joined the cross-country team, and that experience helped with the transition from junior high to high school. Immediately, she was surrounded by upperclassmen who would invite her after practice to go to Culver's when she's 14 or 15 years old and can't even ride in a car with friends. That kind of experience just backs up what you're talking about as being a co-curricular. It is an extension of the classroom. And the things that she's learning in being a part of a team, taking on leadership roles as a captain, it's just as important in my mind as everything that she's learning in the classroom. So I echo your sentiments, and I applaud you for saying that tonight. Another point that I'd like to raise with you is the importance of solidifying relationships with the local clubs and athletic teams at the junior level, whether it be soccer, swimming, lacrosse, football, basketball, partnering with those organizations who are sending their kids to our high schools and having our coaches at North and South develop relationships with those clubs, and even potentially sharing some of the same philosophical ways of how to coach, could bring fantastic benefits at the high school level that I think would both benefit the junior programs and our high school programs. So I would just ask that you guys keep that in mind. I'm sure you're already looking at that, but I think that's really important. And I'm gonna ask you again, because Jenny asked you, I'm gonna ask you again, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Do you, Brandon, you've been here a little over a year, David, you've only been here a few months. So it may be premature for both of you, but what do you guys see as the strengths that we have here at District 99 with regard to athletics? And is there anything that you feel that there are weaknesses as far as how we approach athletics? Are we doing anything that isn't supporting, athletics? I'd really like to hear some comments. It doesn't have to be all rosy tonight. That's okay.
No, I got you. Really, what you just said means a lot about the connections, and that's the work that we're kind of really working on. I know that's coming up in future board meetings. That's why I was going to let that kind of happen naturally.
Sure.
But that work is a passion, I think, of all of ours that we see as a benefit as well. Those connections with the feeder programs or youth programs, however you want to word those
Sure.
out, with our staffs, with our community, with our school. The connection you mentioned about your daughter starting as a freshman, that can just start earlier. Not guaranteeing anything, but they feel comfortable walking in a building. There's pride already established at a youth age that when they walk in, they feel very, very at home. And we want to just start that earlier. So that's something I wouldn't say is a pinch point or a hurt point, but something that I know that's been worked on and we're real excited about as a future possible outcome. What is our strengths is our people. We have some amazing coaches that are there night and day, all week, all the time. I've been in a lot of places, been around a lot of sports, and our coaching staff are very, very dedicated. I live in the community. I see them in the community working even in their craft, and I also my children will go to this district, and I see it in both schools, the amount of work that the coaching staff have put in, and that's not always the case at every
No.
school. They're passionate about what they do, and that's more than just their job. They don't think of it as job. This is who they are. It's what they do. It's what they love. So I'd say that is our strength. Our students then learn that as freshmen, or hopefully, sooner they come in, they fall in love with it. That passion starts instilling within them, and that's why you're seeing, as you mentioned, some of the greatest success in the state and even national levels, as some of our student athletes are taking all this and running with it, literally. So I think if there's anything to work on, it's just building those connections and continuing that and making sure that's our focus.
Here's one great connection since we're talking about gymnastics. Right here in Downers Grove, we have Premier Gymnastics, which is fantastic world-class program and on both the men's and women's level, and they've produced numerous Division I athletes as well as someone who competed in the Olympics recently. So that is a great opportunity for a possible connection.
Yes, I have a son and daughter that are at that gym right now as we speak. Actually.
Oh, wow.
I completely know
So
the
Brandon's
benefits.
aware.
I'm very aware about Premier Gymnastics. There's, as Dave mentioned, we're one of the last conferences that has almost every member school that still has gymnastics because of the historical value of the sport and in our conference. So you're seeing in our area, it is still here. It is still present in our communities. It's just statewide, you saw some drop off. But that's why we're still advocating to offer it within the district.
Great.
I just wanted to add, kind of based on what Don and oh gosh, Jim, I'm thinking, can't get your name here. I wanted to say that it's important to, with you guys coming in, I know we're asking about what is working, what isn't working. you guys bring an embedded base because you came, a different background than being here for a long period of time. Please feel free to share, too, any best practices as you guys come into the role. There are things that are happening or you've experienced or just, we want to hear those kind of things, too. I know we're doing a lot of things right, but as you know what's happening in athletics and if there's changes or just thoughts, we welcome all that, too. It doesn't have to be just centered around kind of here. Bring your outside experiences too. We accept that. And then the next thing I wanted to share is that, to piggyback off Don, my daughter started cross country too. She started prior to coming, as a entering freshman. And it was an amazing experience for her as well. I actually probably help cross country because any parent that stops me as they're talking about their kid becoming an entering freshman and they're like, I don't know what should, I tell them all about cross country and the experience and the fact that my daughter had the opportunity to develop friendships, like you said, well, upperclassmen, and she felt comfortable like these were people that she, had something in common with, and she wasn't treated like she's, I'm a freshman, I can't hang out with those guys. So that is really something that I think that we do a great job at. I had a parent talk to me about an income. Her daughter was transferring as a junior, and I talked to her about what she could do because obviously she didn't have the opportunity to have friends for 2 years here already. So, all great stuff.
Yeah.
So thanks, Jen and Don, for bringing those things up.
I know. When we start the school year, we meet with every student pretty much, all incoming freshmen, everyone. That's the first message anybody that walks into any school gets is get involved. Whether that's athletics, which we hope for in a lot of ways, but that doesn't for everyone, and then there's activities as well.
Exactly.
So we try to make sure that they're involved, and we ask for two things, at least get involved with two different things. We'd like you to be in activity and athletics if possible, but not be in two of them. And you see that in our numbers as well. And to your question of, it's kind of been repeated of what else can we do or what's best practices, blown away with the strength as well is the fact that you asked that question, that we're always looking to evolve here, and that's one of our mission statements, and we're right in there, and our values. We're not just status quo when we're just going to do what we did last year because that worked. It's always what can we do better, take those best practices and grow from there.
Actually, one last thing if I can add, just like a pain point that I do here. So my daughter is a senior, and I think there are certain sports like cross country and others that are no cuts so that you can participate. But I know other senior parents, kids will play, for example, volleyball, and the teams get smaller and smaller as you get older. And so I do have friends whose kids have been playing a sport for, more than high school perhaps, and then they get to senior year and they get cut from the team because it's small. So I don't know what the solution to that is, but it's a difficult time to pivot, and you're so used to having an after-school activity. So I don't know if there's any conversation around that, but we've had a few people come to the board over that. It is a topic, and I feel grateful my daughter's on a no-cut sport, and that wasn't her experience, but I don't know if that's something you experienced. Do you talk to parents about that, or is there any solution to that? I don't know. That is one that I hear from my peer senior parents about.
Yeah, that is tryout week for the sports that have actual tryouts is the hardest week of the year. We have conversations with the families, coaches do, with the athletes. It's a difficult process. A lot of it is because of levels or facilities and constraints. It's not just on numbers. There isn't just where it's at, and the spacing a lot of times too. So, but it's something we don't take lightly. It's a process that could be very difficult, and we know that somebody could have been doing this a long time. But we want to offer a lot of things, though, and that's why we have a lot of different opportunities for them as well.
Yeah, I will echo that it is the coach's worst day of the year if they are in a cut sport, especially because these coaches they throw their entire lives into their programs and into the kids. So when you have, like in your example, when you have a kid that's been in the program for 3 years, they're going to be a senior coming into your program, and you're trying to do what's best to try and put the program in a good position, and unfortunately you're kind of backed against the wall, and you have to cut that player that you've developed that relationship with, that is just as passionate as you are about that sport, It's a incredibly difficult decision to make, and they do. I mean, no coach is cutting a player unless they absolutely have no other choice. But it is a conversation we have, and like Brandon said, it's why we offer so much. It's so in like you said, senior year is tough to redirect and go towards something else. But hopefully it's there's an opportunity in another sport or another club or another activity that we offer that you can go and
Are
pursue
more
something
sports
else.
cut or non-cut, or is it equal, or like, are most sports
Most?
non-cut, or most cut, or is it an equal mix?
It's a mix.
It's a mix.
Yeah.
Curious.
This end of this, we're kind of getting close to the end of the fall season as well. So, I don't know, but you mentioned senior, it's tough, even at the end of the seasons, because a coach has to make a decision that week, and that's hard. But 97% of high school athletes at the end of this season, if you're a senior and this is your last season this fall, only about 3% of athletes continue on to the next level in any way. And about 1% are actually getting financial aid in any capacity. So it's very rare. We're seeing a higher percentage of that in our district. But it is something that as coaches, even these last games, these state series, it's an emotional ride all the way through their whole journey. So it's something that we understand very well.
Can you talk a little bit about how you determine how many coaches are needed, especially in the no-cut sports, when you don't do, if you don't have a sense until possibly registration, if you're going to have 30 kids or 60 kids, if you need an additional coach,
Yeah.
how is that determined?
For the no-cut sports, a lot of times it is trending. We have summer camps, we have things like that, so we kind of have an idea of what's coming in. Those relationships benefit to that too, a lot. But we do have a process. If a program needs an additional stipend or additional coach, that we work that process through. Coach has to advocate and show that data, show those points, which if it is a lot of growth rapidly, that's very easy to show. And then we can demonstrate and take that up to the next level to get approvals or not. And in some sports, it just depends on spacing. It may eventually have to become a cut sport if it had to be. But traditionally, non-cut stay non-cut.
But I mean, if you had 30 people in one season and then suddenly 50.
You'd see me advocating for a couple extra coaches
Yeah,
right away.
yeah.
I double those up.
I mean,
So,
is
isn't
it hard?
like
Is it hard to fill? Because these aren't long seasons. Is it hard to?
Some are
to get that?
Some we're lucky here. We have a lot of staff that are either capable within our buildings, or we have volunteers maybe already on staff that if there was an opportunity and we needed them, they could jump in more regularly. So I think we've been able to do it here so far. I'm in year 2, but so far I've seen these things. Traditionally, though, numbers growth, things like that are really pretty patterned. We rarely see that. Like a flag would be really rapid. That was something that taken off. And same with the opposite. If numbers shrink for some reason, we would evaluate those staffs at that time as well. So it kind of works both ways.
Yeah, and I think just going to the question that was asked a few times as far as, what additional support there could be. This is, I think, the same at every school you're at. We're talking about how athletes getting involved, whether it's sports or clubs or whatever it might be, makes them better in the classroom, gives them a better experience. I think the same is true for coaches. And I think, or teachers rather, I think teachers that are invested in the school outside of the classroom, whether that's being a sponsor for a club or being a coach, I think a lot of times you see not only are they better teachers, but I think a lot of your best coaches are also teachers, just because they are so closely related. They're building those relationships with the kids in the classroom and then after school. And it's something, and again, I've only been here a very short time, but it is very apparent in D99 that there are a lot of coaches that teach in the buildings. Not only that, there are a lot of teachers that live in the community. And I think that goes a long way in building successful programs. Not just wins, but just those great experiences. I mean, cross country and track have had a lot of success, but also they're great programs that kids just enjoy being a part of. And I think having community members and teachers that are also involved in clubs and sports is a huge part of that. So it's kind of something that I think is already a strong point, but I think it is something that should continue to be kind of highlighted when we're looking at coaches and teachers and that.
Any other questions for Dave or Brandon?
No, but I think the amount of questions and interest maybe call for not necessarily twice a year, but maybe once a year for them to come back and report would be a good thing in the future. This being my second stint on the board, I can't remember the athletic directors ever coming in my first stint on the board. So I really appreciate you guys coming here tonight. The board is interested in athletics and does see as an extension of the classroom. So we're very glad to get an update from the two of you, and hopefully we'll see you back sometime, maybe next year, to give us an update on how things are going.
We'll be back second semester for reporting on our strategic plan stuff, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be.
That's great.
And it's
That's
great.
great.
Yeah, and it's related to, the student involvement and numbers and all that, so it'll kind of fit in
Okay.
what we're talking about.
And vice versa, if there's anything specifically you want us to talk about, please let us know too.
Okay.
All right, I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you
Thank
guys
you.
have nothing going on in the buildings and would like to stick around the whole evening, but thank you for being here. You're both welcome to head out. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, appreciate you.
All right, the next one is Scott's, and this is an action item this evening.
Yeah, so the state of Illinois and ISB is gathering more specific data around bullying and harassment. And so we made some internal code changes. So it's not affecting the consequences or that, it's just really as you see it, just breaking it down into more categories. And you can also notice on there that they're looking to gather information on, the cyber aspect of bullying and harassment. So you can see all the code changes that we're proposing and can implement.
And Scott, this doesn't change our practices, just our recording
Just the way we
practices.
record it, so we can report it out to the ISB.
So, once upon a time, I did practice in school law, not anymore. But some of these could be done off-site, right? Like cyber harassment.
Sure.
Can we discipline students for actions that occur outside of school?
We can if there's a nexus back to the school. So
Is there?
if something
Okay.
happens outside of school, say for like cyberbullying,
Mm-hmm.
and it causes a disruption and is affecting the school, then yes, we can.
Okay.
We're very cautious, though, in identifying where those things do create a nexus. And we recognize that we are not the social media police. The police are the social media police, right? And there are people in the community that wish we were and are looking for us to be that solution for their child's online experience. And that's part of the reason we've been communicating to staff, or to families to start this year, of like, parents need to be aware of what's going on there. And if it's happening out in that space, it's parents and the community need to supervise that space. We are when it crosses into our environment, but we are not the primary defenders of the social media space.
What about, on these, does AI come into play? Because I just saw a big segment on the news tonight about where they take people's faces and put them on AI bodies. And, that's really frightening.
That would fall under the same category, like what you're seeing there. It would either fall under some kind of harassment or cyber harassment, that type of a piece, if it's somehow connected back into the school environment.
Right.
So, cyberbullying is bullying, right? And harassment or bullying using AI or any other technology, it's still just, it comes back to bullying, harassment, however we segment that out, it isn't allowed, right? Regardless of which tool you are using to harass somebody is really irrelevant in the whole scheme of things, right? If it's harassment, it's harassment. Whether you do it writing on a piece of paper or posting on an online message board is irrelevant from the whole approach of we're responding to that as if it's harassment.
Okay.
Have we gotten to the point where we're entering any information about AI in our communications? I know, as you mentioned, it falls under, cyber bullying and cyber harassment, AI, but are we at a point where we're having to talk about that from any perspective in our technology?
Yeah, we talk about it, on our administrative team. We've done some professional development in the building with our staff on it. But like you said, it's technology, right? It's, so we don't have anything that calls it out specifically, but it would fall underneath the existing policies as they are.
It was actually mentioned at the curriculum night for I went to the senior parent one, and they were talking about applying to colleges, and they actually, not specific to D99, but they talked about you can use AI to start your application, but to write your essay or whatever, but, you need to finalize it by, so I feel like some teachers are doing a good job of kind of incorporating it, right? Like, so that was one example recently.
That's a perfect example, even in using it for,
For good.
yeah, writing your essays and things like that. But anyway, I digress. I just thought I'd ask about it in the way of this.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Scott? All right, like our other changes, just procedurally, so the board's aware, the way that the student handbook works is it is officially board policy. We are allowed to update it in real time and then take it to the board for approval, right, if we see a change that we need to do to respond to something. So I believe, Scott, this is already existing in the online?
already updated it, yeah.
We have updated the online policy. Now the board is bringing in line their approval of those updates. If in the future we ever reached a spot where right now you were like, no, right, we'd have to roll back. This isn't one of those cases, but I just take this as an opportunity to emphasize our procedures and protocols and how the student handbook works. So tonight, we'll ask you to approve that, and then technically that online handbook comes in line as board policy.
And when there are changes that impact consequences or whatever, we obviously communicate that to
Yes.
students, right?
Yeah, this one
This is
is
just
more
like
of a
a
procedural
document.
thing
Okay.
behind in the
Got it.
background, so.
Yeah.
All right, tentative budget, we've been talking about this for the last kind of 8 weeks with the board. Jeree apologizes that she can't be here this evening. We as a board changed the date of the meeting, remember, so we wouldn't have back-to-back in September. She had already had a vacation planned, so she chose that over us at my encouragement. So, but as she has been keeping the board updated over the last several weeks, Tammy is also here to answer any questions if you have them. This is the overview of what we've already communicated to the board, right? And including the last several meetings. We end up with a projected deficit of $455,840. This is primarily caused by the state reduction in corporate personal, oh, come on, Tammy, what's the?
Personal property
Property
replacement
replacement
tax.
Thank you. I always stumble on that acronym. So that reduction was, obviously, we projected 14% has been shared. It came in at 32.6?
2.6, yeah.
Yeah, 32.6, which was an additional reduction of $367,000 plus. To get rid of the original deficit we projected, we made the reductions listed there: technology, outplaced tuition, communications, transportation. So we end up with that overall deficit projected of 290, or greater than the original projected number. We are continuing to reinforce with employees throughout the district of the ways that we can make decisions to reduce that with things like electrical use, transportation decisions, purchases, printing, a whole bunch of different ways that we can chip into that over the course of the year. We anticipate through that and other administrative decisions that we will close that deficit number over the course of the year, barring any unexpected changes. But we're asking the board tonight to approve that deficit of $455,840, which puts our fund balance at a projected 6.1% at the end of the year, which is well above the board mandated threshold of 3%. 1%. There's a couple of slides in here to go into details. I'll turn it over to Tammy to see if there's any questions. You can ask them of Tammy as we move through these next couple of slides. Otherwise, we will then open a public hearing for anybody that wishes to comment on the budget after this presentation. So returning revenues, I don't think anything in here has changed significantly other than CPPRT. Board has seen this before. Any questions in slides here? A reminder, the big reduction is obviously interest rates. You've already seen the federal rate change on that. We're doing, Tammy and Jeree have taken measures to try to protect those interest earnings already this year. But we do project that would be a reduction.
9 cuts.
Federal aid is obviously reducing with ESSER funds going away and funds from the pandemic. Any questions on revenues?
No.
Okay, then returning from before, expenditures have been adjusted within there with those items that I outlined earlier. You can see the biggest reduction is capital outlay because we moved some of those projects into summer projects using those bond proceeds. Otherwise, things stay pretty close to what we expected. Questions on any of the expenditure?
No.
Hearing none. Fund balance, this is what represents that deficit you see there at the 455,840 in the tentative budget. That overall reduction in the fund balance ends up at total fund balance at the end of this year projected at 6.1%. You can see that we do have a significant deficit in the educational fund, but we do have surpluses in other areas. You will see us making adjustments when we come to you with the proposals for the levy in December, January, that amount of time to try to equalize those funds moving forward, or those funding accounts moving forward. Are there any questions here on fund balances?
Tammy, on the budgeted revenues, the 114,879 number, and I was just comparing that to the page 1 revenue budget of where it seems to show 115,134,307. Now, can you explain the discrepancy there between the 115,134 and the 114,879? It's not huge.
Where was the 114?
Where's,
Fund balance is operating funds. One more, I think.
yeah,
So revenues is saying 114,879 projected for budget. But when I compare that to the revenues on page 1, it's 115,134.
Because if you go to the fund balance tab, that 255 working cash below the 114.
Oh,
Two of those
there we are.
total the
Okay,
115.
yes, okay. So you're pulling out the working cash revenue when comparing it against expenditures?
Yeah, because there's no expenditures in there.
Okay.
hold on, Tammy, you got put on the spot.
What
right
is,
there.
what is a working cash revenue? Is that just interest on the working cash? Okay. Okay, thanks.
Well, I'm glad you were here, Tammy, because it would have taken me a while to find that one. Any other questions on this?
I would just reiterate what we talked about last time for the public's benefit is that instead of attempting to take away from our expenditures and potentially make cuts, we've decided to adopt a budget that shows a little bit of a negative balance, but we're going to work very hard through the school year to try and diminish
Mitigate that.
that shortfall to the best we can, while still properly maintaining our fund balances well above our policies. So I feel comfortable moving forward with this budget personally.
All right, thank you. One more thing. Per state law, we are required when we talk about the budget to present to the board and to the public what our cash balances were as of the end of the last fiscal year. Those are on display for you here. I think that meets our requirement. Am I
Yeah.
correct, Tammy?
So the only thing I will say is that these fund balances include the tax money we received in May and June. We defer some of that tax money, so that's why the differences from what you were seeing in the previous slide with the fund balances at the beginning of the year are different from that, so that's the main difference.
In District 99, we try not to spend the money until we have it. So that's why the numbers look different.
Not a bad
It's
thing
good
to do.
practice. It's good
Yeah. Yeah. Wish the government would do that.
All right. With that, we can move on to the public hearing for the hearing.
Okay, do we have any slips, or
We have
do we
no
have any
slips.
members of the public? Okay.
We still technically have to call the hearing.
Okay. So I'm going to open up a public hearing to receive public comments on the 2024-2025 tentative budget. Seeing that we have no public participation, I will then close the public hearing on the. We'll need a motion to close? Okay. Can I get a motion from the Board of Education to close the public hearing on the 2024-2025 tentative budget?
So moved.
Second.
Terry moves, Ken seconds.
Thank you very much. Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Ken Dawson.
Aye.
Chris Espinoza.
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Kara Caston.
Aye.
And Don Renner.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number six.
Just, I have to
Sorry.
update the board that, thank you for that. For Freedom of Information requests, we have received them, updated them, and they're available on the website.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Item number 7 of the consent agenda. Before the board votes on the consent agenda, is there any agenda item a board member would like to pull out of the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none. Can I get a motion from the Board of Education to approve the consent agenda as presented, which includes A, personnel report, appointment certified, transfer of position classified, appointment exempt, and appointment classified. B, personnel report, retirement certified, resignation classified. C, August financial pages. D, student trips. E, acceptance of donation, Jerry Smolek from T99. And F, settlement agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Terry moves, Ken seconds.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Ken Dawson.
Aye.
Chris Espinoza.
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Kara Caston.
Aye.
And Don Renner.
Aye, motion carries.
And a huge thanks to Jerry for that donation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Item number 8, recommendations for action. Can I get a motion for the Board of Education to adopt the 2024-2025 budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Continuing the theme, Terry moves and Ken seconds.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Ken Dawson.
Aye.
Chris Espinoza.
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Kara Caston.
Aye.
And Don Renner.
Aye, motion carries. Item number B, can I get a motion for the Board of Education to approve changes to the Student Parent Handbook Discipline Code?
So moved.
Chris moves,
Second.
Kara seconds.
Cheryl, you just missing.
I'm done.
Thank
Oh,
you.
no, there's
Jeopardy
one more.
Chris
clicker's a little slow.
Espinoza.
Aye.
Thank you. Kara Caston.
Aye.
Ken Dawson.
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
And Don Renner.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 9, do we have any old business?
Yes. Returning are the policy committee report recommendations. This is the second reading of policies for the ones projected on the board. These all were reviewed by the policy committee, came to the full board at our last board meeting. I have not received any feedback or comments or recommended changes on these. These are all emerging from press recommended changes. And it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve these revisions this evening. Any
This-
questions?
This evening?
Yeah. This is second reading.
Okay, do you need a motion?
Yep, I need
Yes,
a
please.
motion for the board to approve the policies as presented.
Okay. Can I get a motion from the Board of Education to approve the policies as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Chris moves,
Sherelle, it was your
Ken
chance.
seconds.
I waited for you.
Christopher Espinoza.
Aye.
Ken Dawson. Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Kara Caston.
Aye.
And Don Renner.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 10, any new business?
No new business?
Item number 11, Julie, do we have any slips from visitors?
No, sir.
Thank you. Item number 12, Jenny, can we get an update on Lend, please?
Oh, Kara's gonna do it, right?
Kara?
So we went to the kickoff meeting for the year. I did have some notes. We had updates on EBF, which stands for
Evidence-based
Evidence-Based Funding.
funding.
Okay. And they talked about the 4 tiers, and a representative, typically a superintendent from each tier school, kind of gave an overview of what that funding means to that tier. We are Tier 1, correct?
Tier 4.
We're Tier 4, okay, sorry about that. Then we got some other updates on hot topics, busing, certifying bus drivers and keeping them in districts so they don't go take other jobs, a few other topics, and then we broke out into groups with elected officials and heard about their kind of agenda for the year. I think that was the high points.
Yep.
Okay, SACID?
I
Cheryl, and or-
don't think Sherelle has had a meeting yet. We had one with
Chris is sassy.
Chris?
Chris now. I'm getting lost.
Sorry, that's my fault.
Not since the budget passed
That's the
last
budget.
month.
You have one coming up though, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Because you'll have to approve the final
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
So, we met last week with the group of superintendents. This is more the managing board. They're off to a good start to start their school year. They're kind of lagging behind in staffing like we were the last few years, where we've been able to kind of get away from outsourcing paraprofessionals. They're still needing to outsource a great number of them, so that's an area that they're looking to close their gaps in. New executive director getting up and started. It's like a new superintendent in the school district, right? So a lot of finding out what's going on around the district and moving forward, but they're off to a pretty good start themselves. So that's kind of what we heard last week.
Terry, can we get an update from the foundation?
Yeah, we were discussing the grant rollout, and it went well. The first deadline is the end of the month, so if anybody wants to turn in anything, I guess I'm speaking to the staff, the end of the month. And we're also talking about future ideas for the Mark McDonald Fund. We're trying to figure out exactly what to do with that. We didn't raise as much money as we thought we would, and we're still going to try to raise more money, but we've got to figure out what to do with that once we get some. And then we had a meeting with Hank to talk about things that the district might need and what kind of projects were in the works that we can help with. And so it gave us some ideas, and we're going to be hashing that around in the October meeting. So that's it.
Thank you, Terry. Ken, any updates from IASB?
Yeah, there are going to be 2 exciting events this fall in ASB. The first being on Wednesday, October 30th, the DuPage Division meeting, and that's going to be held at the Carlisle in Lombard. And it's a great opportunity for us to meet our peers and network. And I'm hoping that we'll have good representation from our board. I know I'm planning on attending, and I'm sure Terry is, and hopefully other board members will as well. And then in November, we have our joint annual conference, which is the whole state getting together for networking, meeting people, conferences, training. It's a outstanding event. This is only my second one, but definitely looking forward to it, as I'm sure all of us board members are. So it's exciting times.
And tying back to a topic this evening, on the October 30th meeting, the focus will be AI and its impact on education. So
It's well worth coming
topic,
to.
good
and-
presenter.
And we would like to see as many people from our board come to that meeting. So please, please put that on your calendars and let Julie know, because it's really important that we
We've
keep
sent
this
out
going.
information and preliminary notes, right, Julie?
Remind me, I got a little lost here. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Carlisle?
Yes.
Yep,
Yep,
yep.
at the Carlisle.
Yep.
October
30th, Wednesday, October 30th at 6 o'clock.
It's in preliminary notes if you want to look back.
I think I RSVP'd for it, but I just want to be sure.
You're supposed to attend in costume, Sherelle.
I will. I'm going to be a butterfly.
That's a good choice.
That's my middle child's 35th birthday.
Thanks, Ken. Any report on the Downers Grove Plan Commission, Sherelle, at this point?
I do. So I had the opportunity to attend the September 16th meeting because we didn't have our meeting that night. So there were a couple public hearings. There was one for a petition seeking approval for special use for a trade school. So I thought that was pretty interesting and timely for me coming to, being there that night and hearing that they're interested in putting a trade school. The property is located northwest of the intersection of Wood Creek Drive and Lacey Road, with a common address of 3110 Wood Creek Drive. The other thing, because the petition that was interesting as well, is that there was a petition seeking approval for a zoning map amendment from R4 residential detached house 4 to B3 general services. What that means is that on that particular lot, which is known as 814 and 818 Ogden Avenue, which in 4244 Am Street, Downers Grove, Illinois, they're interested in rezoning that for an Andy's frozen custard.
Yes.
However,
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to make it because there was quite a bit of community consent
Blowback?
around lighting and traffic. Andy's are pretty well lit, but they did share that they were even willing to turn down the lighting because we have a different lighting code than other areas about what level of lighting we could have on the Ogden. So, very interesting meeting. I don't know where that one will go because there was quite a few community people concerned that live in the area about the traffic, the noise, the lighting.
Where exactly on Ogden is that? Is that where the Boston Market? No, that's
No.
Westmont. That's Westmont.
Walgreens is 1,000, Ogden and Maine is 1,000, so
Yeah.
2 blocks east of that.
East.
From my understanding, it's an open lot that's been open for quite a number of years is what the.
Next
what
to the
they-
Speedway?
Is that, yeah, that little.
I saw it on the map. It looks like it's closer to Jewel down in that area, kind of going on Ogden down there.
Well, that's
But it's eight-
Westmont, isn't it?
No, I'm going toward,
Oh, the other way,
yeah.
the other way.
past- Yeah, north. So it's 814, 818 Ogden, if you want to put it in the Google. It'll show you the location. So more to come on that. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out based on the community speaking to the Plan Commission about their concerns around those items.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
As a reminder, our upcoming board meetings, next one is October 7th. There'll be a workshop meeting here at the ASC at 6:30 PM, followed by our regular business meeting on October 21st, again at 6:30 PM at the ASC. Next item is, I need a motion for the Board of Education to go into closed session to discuss the collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
Someone.
Sherelle moves.
Terrell, yes.
Chris seconds.
Thank you. Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Chris Espinoza.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Kara Caston.
Aye.
Ken Dawson.
Aye.
And Don Renner.
Aye, motion carries. And as a reminder to the public, the only action the board will be taking when it comes out of closed session is to adjourn. We are in closed session. Thank you.
Take a few minutes to turn the room over. We'll be back in here.
Probably between. Look at what I.